This video shows the changes in version 3.1. Okay, a lot of changes made to payroll. So let's start off by some settings. So in payroll departments, so if we choose, say, the sales department here, we've got a new setting here called vacation expense. If it's blank, like it will be at default, it will post vacation expense to the salaries and wages account by default. But now you can select a different GL expense account to post that to if you want to track vacation pay expense separately. So still under payroll departments, benefits and deductions can now have default settings for them. So if I put in amounts and set flags on them, when I add these benefits and deductions to an employee, these amounts will automatically get added to that employee. So this is the sales department. If I save and close this now, and I add a new employee, and I put them in the sales department, and if I go to benefits, you'll see that that $50 and the $100 I put in there got added, and the deduction of $50 for social. Now you can override them, so if you want to change these, you can change it to a different number, and you can always see which ones have been overridden by the fact that it's a darker color on the overridden amounts. Okay, in time cards, when you create time cards, put the date on it, you've got choices of when you add the time cards, if by doing them by payroll department, so I can choose admin, and it puts my 3 admin people on. I'll delete those. I can choose it by pay period, so people with 12 pay periods, and it puts those 3 on. Or, like before, I could choose all time cards, and it puts everybody on the list. Okay, so in the past, when voiding time cards, so if you highlight somebody and voided it, what it would do is void it based on how the employee is set now. So if they were at a 6% or 4% vacation pay and had certain benefits and deductions, and you then edited those employees, the void would use the new state that that employee was set onto. Whereas now it looks back at the historical time card and voids it as it was at that time. This is made possible by adding some additional history tables to be able to do that void. Okay, for EFT, for direct deposit, we've added a new step where it now asks the process payment date. So this is the date you wish the amounts to come out of the bank. So if the payroll is supposed to be posted on the 31st of your month, so your last day of your month, but it falls on a weekend, you can choose a different date so that it comes out on the Friday before the weekend, where in the past you had to actually date your payroll batch on the Friday, whereas now you can date it as you wish and have it process the amounts out of the bank on your chosen date. Okay, some banks, like the Royal Bank, the RBC, require a routing number on the account, and we now have a new field for the routing number. So you can choose from one of the 2 that we've got preset, so you can go on test mode or production mode, and these can actually be edited once you've selected it. But this is a common one that RBC requires. They don't require it on all of their EFT banking, but certain types of EFT banking, they require that routing record, that header record, to be on the EFT file when it's been sent to them. Okay, on the employee list, we have a lot of new columns that we had in the past. So all of these columns are now available. So if I just right click, we've got employee number, name, title, birthday, hire date, review date, status, department, termination date, the payroll table, so that's our tax table, that's the province or territory, the periods that they're in, their sex, whether they're direct deposit, the advance balance that they owe, vacation rate, regular rate, salary, vacation owed, tax credit amount, other tax credit amount, provincial tax credit amount, alimony credit, and remote credit, overtime, and premium. So those are all columns you can turn on if you wish to see them. This is handy just to double check everybody's amounts at any given time without having to run any reports for them. Okay, and time card batches, if I add and choose all time cards, payroll date, choose all time cards. We have a column on here now for direct deposit, so whether they are set up for direct deposit or not. That way you can sort by that and just highlight the people you want to write a check to and click the post button and apply the checks, and then send them checks or print checks, and then highlight the remainder who are not direct deposit or are direct deposit, hit post again, and send direct deposit notices to them. Okay, well, we're in time cards. A couple of new things here. So we have a new field called comment. So on each line of a payroll, you can add a comment to what you're paying them for. So if you're putting in hours and you want to split them up, you can type in a comment for every line of the order. We also have a new UDF location. We've got UDFs line by line, so you can add UDF pages to here. So each line can have a new UDF field. So if I just create a field here that's called off, and go in here, time off, and we'll make that a text field and click OK. Actually, we'll make this a mask text field, and I'll just make it a short one. So we're just going to put in some and signs here. And click OK and OK. Now we have each line. We can add in different text. So if we want to put in text there on that line, and this one here can have different text on it. So whatever text we type in there. So each one, we can view it afterwards and see that. And that's available even after posting. So if there's other columns on a line by line of a time card that you require, you can add in your own fields for that. Okay, back to employees. Any employee who is under the age of 18 and over the age of 70 will not get charged for CPP, even if they don't have the exempt flag on. So you don't have to remember to turn the exempt flag off when they're younger or older. It's done automatically now. Doing the payroll year end, you no longer have to log in the last day of the year, but we give you a warning that the amounts are being moved to last year and this year. So you get a chance to back up first if you wish. When I proceed, it completes the year end, and then also now asks you if you want to update the employee TD1 amounts. That way you don't have to go to a separate menu item, although it is there separately if you do not want to do it at this time. If I choose yes, it brings up all the amounts, what the amounts are set to now, and what they're going to be, and the index rate. Now there's no index rate on this one because this has already been done, but you can look at the provincial and the federal. And actually another good thing is that when there's no index rate in here, it means you know you've already done them, so you don't have to update them again. And then at the same time as the TD1 update is done, it automatically resets the provincial maximum for the WCB assessable rate to 0. And 0 means that it uses the rate for that province and not some special rate for a particular employee. Okay, for T4 statements, when you email them, so when you print and email them, they are now, the employee's email address is now accessible, and you can email merge the T4s to each employee instead of having to save them as PDFs and then email them. Okay, if you go into an employee and you look at their time cards, you see just their time cards here, but in previous versions, if you double-clicked on a time card, then you saw all the time cards from that batch. So it made it difficult to go browse one particular employee's time card by hitting next, next, next to see each period. So now it basically filters it down to just that one employee when you're viewing it from within the employee itself. Okay, we can now process T4As and T501.8s. So first of all, you have to go into company settings and then to payroll and make sure that the current payroll year is in here and your payroll number, which should already be there if you're using payroll. They have a contractor setting, so which reporting period you want to report. If it's the calendar year, you can do so, but not everybody does the calendar year, so you can set your date. So if you set this for May 31st, it'll do everything up until that date, so for a full year. And then your return number, so it'll have you the same as your business number with an RZ. And then under contact, this is the person who sends in the T4, T4As, and T501.8s. This may already be filled out as well if you're already using this. Okay, so once you've set that all up, your vendors themselves will have to be set for being set for either a T4A or a T501.8. So I've got a few set that way. So we go into the vendor itself, and we go to the General tab. You'll see this is set for a T501.8, and you then also have to set whether you're using a business number or a social insurance number. And if it's a business number, you key in that number there, and then save it. Let's go to the next vendor. So this particular one is a T4A, and normally it's set with social insurance number, so you put the social insurance number in there, and you can go each one. So you've got each employee or each vendor that's set for a T4A or T501.8 is selected here. Once you've done that, you can go into the payroll heading at the top and print T4As to start with, and then let's take these out for a moment. We would generate those T4As as based on last calendar year for T4As, always calendar year. Generate that. It says 4 new statements were added, and if we go into one of them, we see that the fees for services box 48 has been filled out with the amount that we paid them this past year. Anything else can be added to this. Typically, you would not have any more information about them, but if you did, you could add any of the other available boxes that are available on a T4A. And you can also amend this if necessary. And then when you amend it, you would just save and close it. And now what you do is you can print them. And when you do that, you can preview. And then those are all of our T4As that got generated with box 48 filled out. You can also export them for CRA, and you fill out your information here for as the person sending them. Some of the information is required, like the social insurance number of the proprietor of the business sending these, and then the contact information got picked up out of company settings. You click the OK button, it creates the XML file that is required, and you would upload that through the Service Canada module online. Once you've remitted them, you can go mark them as remitted so that they are no longer editable, but they will stay behind. So year over year, you'll see all of your T4As that you've generated in the past, or if you need to reprint a copy for somebody, you can come back here and do that as well. T501.8s are very similar. You generate them. So I've already generated them, so they're here now. And if I go into a particular vendor, I see here their amounts, and again, you can adjust those. On the T5018s, there is no other boxes that you can add to it, but you can edit these and fill in whatever other information is required for you to send these along as well. And then once you again finish them off, you can go generate or print them, and then preview. And again, we get the form filled out that you can give to your contractors. Again, in this case, you can press Export for CRA. Same box comes up, fill out what's needed, and then you click OK, and it'll create the XML file for those all to be sent out. Okay, so in accounts payable, made some changes here for batch processing. So if you can in the past you would hit batch, create batch, and it would create a batch of all payables. But we had users saying that they wanted to just do certain filtered vendors. So maybe from and to vendors. So if you sort by vendor, you can choose just those ones, or you just want to do ones in a certain city if you wish. I don't know why, but you could. Or any criteria, you just want to pay this one, this one, this one, and this one. Then you hit the batch button, and that then creates the batch with just those vendors in it. And you can further filter this batch by choosing a terms code or a due date, and then just hit load payables, and it'll take out the ones that don't fall into that particular criteria. Okay, so now let's go back into create another batch, and we're going to do EFT. Actually, we'll load all our EFT. Now, if we go to pay particular vendors, say these ones, and I post it, pay them, save the EFT file for upload to the bank, print off the remittance forms if you wish and email them. Now what it does, it asks you would you like to transfer the EFT payments from the clearing account to the bank. So in the past, every check got posted to the bank, but when you did the EFT to the bank, they would remove the cash or money from your account in one transaction. So it made a reconciliation more difficult because you had to manually add those up to see if they matched. Whereas now it'll go through as one transaction. If you say no, it'll keep it in the clearing account or in the or post it all to the bank account. You don't have to do so. Now, what happens here is that to have this work for you, you first have to go into company settings and then go into accounts payable, or in special accounts. So if I go into general ledger and special accounts under AP, I have to have first set up the EFT clearing account here for that to work. Otherwise, it will do it like it used to before and post it just directly to the bank. Okay, something else we've done in accounts payable. If we go into a vendor here, let's just open up the vendor, and we go to the billing tab. You see we've got a payment account, something new, and we pay them by another account altogether. Say you pay by Visa. This particular Visa is an asset account, but we'll just use that for a moment. So then we save that. And then when we go to pay this vendor, hit payment, you'll see that GL account automatically comes up. So if you always pay them with a certain bank account or by a credit card, it always knows. You can always, of course, switch, but it will go to that default account. Okay, so now with 3.1, if you are running the French version of Windows, the French-Canadian version of Windows, you can, when you start up Spire, you'll see that everything is in French. So this way, everything, all the fields within the program are all in French. And if you're running Spanish, then you'll see that all the items within the program are all in Spanish. So it will pick up the languages automatically from the user's Windows settings, but if you want to select a language, if you're not set to or have a particular version of Windows installed, you can go to File Options and choose from French or Spanish here, or if you want to use Canadian English or US English, choose them as well. But system default will automatically pick up the language from the Windows settings. Okay, so then we have under Accounts Receivable, if you need to write a check to a customer, you basically click on the refund check, key in the amount of the check that you want to pay, a memo if you need, and then the date. You can choose the bank account you want to create the check from. It'll automatically pick up the next check number from the bank. Click OK, and you'll get a choice of style of check that you need. I'll just print each of them. And then what we get is a check written to the customer for the amount that was keyed in for that particular check. Okay, those are the new features for version 3.1. If you want to see some of the fixes as well, look at the release notes for a full list.